And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be talking about Raised by Wolves Season 2, Episode number 7. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment, and full spoilers ahead. We'll start. There's a lot to talk about in this episode, a lot going on. We're leading into the finale of the season next week. We still don't know if the show has been officially picked up for a third season or not. I hope it was, because we know that there's, at least from the showrunners, there's an outline for multiple seasons. But just focusing on this episode, I want to jump right into the snake tree god thing, because that sort of set the tone for the whole episode. Sue is the tree. Paul and Marcus are trying to feed the fruit from the tree to the people. Nothing is happening. They're sort of puzzled by it. They're starting to lose faith. And then the snake escapes, our number 7, consumes the tree, and then proceeds to evolve into some eldritch horror. This god-like being that's trying to destroy everything. Mother tries to fight it. It doesn't work out. And now it's just sort of roaming around and just, frying and destroying everything. Didn't see that coming. Thoughts on where they're going with this, specifically the evolution of this snake god?
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that when we look at those aspects of it, we have all come up with multiple theories of where this show is going. And I think when stuff like this happens throughout the show, it doesn't I don't believe that it makes me feel like any of my theories are more wrong, but it always comes up with more theories. And that's why I think this show is so brilliant, is it doesn't matter how outlandish or how out of this world our theories are. The show still manages to keep us questioning, and does it in such a brilliant way that we still, no matter how well thought out some of our theories are, it still sends something so crazy our way that makes us question even more things. And we talk about other shows too that are so brilliantly written, but there's some shows that we also do that are not. And but this show, no matter how crazy something feels, even when we've talked 1,000 times about this acid ocean that we still have an issue with, it still manages to keep us questioning, and still does so in such a way that is amazing. Visually, we talk about budget wise, how this show feels like a huge budget, but they've released it. It's not really that astronomical. The budget is not billions of dollars. Like, they're not spending, hundreds of millions of movie dollar type of budget on this show, but it always feels like it. And it's just so horrifying and horror based, but still so strongly based in sci-fi. Like, and none of this has anything to do with the question you said, Brian. I just feel that it's great, and I just wanted to start with that.
Yeah, and like you said, the idea of the whole serpent being weaponized and the tree being some sort of transmitter that's sending a fucking signal, that wasn't on any of our fucking bingo cards, the whole tree thing. But yeah, it's crazy, it's unexpected, but it still doesn't invalidate any of our theories. In fact, it perhaps even proves some, because it was still possibly, an AI or something that was manipulating the tree, or manipulating Sue and everyone else into getting the serpent to transform so that it can complete its goal, which is apparently destroying the planet. And you kind of got to ask yourself, like, well, why is that the goal? Which is something they asked, and they said that it's beyond human comprehension. It feels like maybe something's trapped in the planet, and the serpent was genetically engineered in order to free whatever that thing is that's trapped.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We get to the ending with the grandmother and talking with Mother about because she has these questions. First of all, she's trying to get herself reprogrammed so that she can fight and kill this thing. And grandmother has a few answers for her. She, like you said, Larry, she's just sort of like, well, yeah, this shit, that's what it does. And she's like, but why? He's like, I don't know. And it's we go back to the idea of these cycles and these things that have to happen and seem to happen potentially over and over on this world, but we have no real understanding yet as to why. And maybe this is part of the cycle, this thing going crazy. Maybe mother even stopping it is part of the cycle. Going on that idea, I want to go back to Marcus and Paul real quick because that ties directly into it. They've lost faith. They want Sue back. Clearly, Sue's gone. They still, that thing could shit her out for all we know. but they are like, we need to take this thing down. Soul is. They're not saying Soul isn't there. They're just saying, yeah, Soul's an asshole, and it's the darkness. And so, where does Marcus go in the overarching story? We know Lucius hates him and wants to kill him. Will something happen in which Marcus and Paul say, no, this was part of the plan, and they get redevoted to the cause? Or, where does their story, go in all this?
Well, I think that because we weren't bashing Marcus by any means, I think that he's done a great job, but we were like, where does his story go? We were thinking that they were going to tie up his story, and that killing off his character, to me, could serve a purpose. In this episode, it almost strengthened that argument, but at the beginning of the episode, it unstrengthened our argument, like where he could carry it on. And it's funny how the show did that. And in my opinion, at the beginning of the show, or the beginning of this specific episode, with the tree coming to life, them trying to push the, I don't even know, it looked like brains into the, the compounds and into everything to try and spread what they felt was Saul. They were just like, this is going to be great. This is to help us. This is something that Saul wants. And then by the end of the episode, they're just like, oh shit, this is bad. But the damage had already been done. Like, they had already spread those seeds quite a bit. So in one episode, you had Marcus feeling like, all right, well, this is Marcus's purpose now. We still don't agree with it. We still think it's bad, but now we can see where his character is going to move forward with. And now, on the same note, he burned the tree. Like, there's this ending, and it feels like, once again, Marcus's story can come to an end and still drive the story forward by its ending. But it could be that Marcus now has a new purpose, is to, help kill this serpent, because it, was evolved from Sue, and he felt, he loved Sue. So now he's going to try and go back and kill this serpent. So now he has a purpose, but to me, it was very interesting to watch his story evolve throughout this episode, where it went from fighting for Saul and feeling like this was a purpose, that he was helping spread Saul and bring all these people to this tree, where now he's like, it's bad. He feels like what he thought Saul was, or what was being presented to him as Saul, he sees it now as evil.
Yeah, I think what we're going to get out of this is a really awesome sort of sci-fi Captain Ahab story, because Marcus is all in on whatever it is he's trying to do, whatever his goal, his focus. Because we've seen his goal, shift a number of times, where it's like, I only care about the survival of me and Sue. Okay, I care about this family unit that is me, Sue, and Paul. My goal is to propagate this religion and to continue, because I believe in that now. And now that his goal is like, I want revenge for Sue, I think, while that does align him with Mother and the Atheist Collective and everything, like that also may bring up further conflict. And in fact, it may still split the group, between factions of mother, grandmother, and Marcus, because while grandmother has similar goals to mother, we don't know what her programming, how her programming tells her to go about that is a thing, but as far as Marcus, I do think he's going full Captain Ahab. He's like, no, I want to kill this thing no matter what, because it took what I love most in the world. I don't care how the plot shifts or what we learn about it. I want it dead. It took Sue for me, whereas Paul, I think the greater question is like, what happens to Paul? Because Paul is very much defined by his faith and soul.
But I think what you just said though is a great thing, because to, kind of piggyback off that, you look at grandmother who said it to mother several times, basically you are evolving from what you were. You're not just a weapon because now you have feelings. And she was talking about, how becoming a mother has given her these feelings. It's, giving her emotions that she wasn't supposed to have. Like, she wasn't supposed to have these emotions, but she does have them because that's part of her programming now, that it's evolved with her children. And Seven, this giant serpent, is her child. And they kind of alluded to, what is she going to do now that this creature has evolved in such a way? And she's just like, well, it's still my kid. So she doesn't still 100% know what she's going to do. So now you have her line on this. You have grandmother's version of programming that we don't know what she's going to do just yet. But then on top of that, now you have Marcus, who's 100% hell-bent on killing this thing. So you have, like you said, 3 different factions that can evolve from this, because mother's going to want to try and protect it. We don't know how she's going to try and protect it, or try to de-evolve it, or use it against whatever it is that she's going to align against. And then you have Marcus, who just wants to kill it, and grandmother, who we don't know yet. She's still the wild card. So you could still have several different factions evolve from these group of people that are still left.
We still don't. You're right, because we still don't know how grandmother, how she views people.
Absolutely, and she's choosing her words very carefully. Everything she says can be discerned one way or another, or is vague enough that it tells you what you want to know, but it doesn't tell you everything.
Yeah, because there's still so many unknowns, and I believe we only get one more episode, which I was hoping that they would announce green lighting of the 3rd season before the final episode aired, just for that little bit of comfort, because clearly they're not going to be able to wrap up everything in one episode. Hell, I think they just announced The Boys already got greenlit for the next season, and they haven't even started airing season 3 yet. So hopefully we will get that confirmation this week. But going to Campion now, who's another interesting character that clearly there's a vision for this character long term, but he's developed Vril returns, and she's constructed this sort of face so that you don't have to see the skeleton and or the skull, and she's like, oh, I heard I can help Tempest find her child, and they go on that whole thing. But Campion has developed feelings for her, at least it appears so. They end up getting trapped together, trying to hide from the giant snake monster. And then we get a bizarro scene, which, it's just like, what? They're on the run. She freaks out. She's like, oh, shit, I'm about to die. And she's recording, basically trying to record the diaries and the memories of Vril as quickly as she can, the best parts, onto this tree, so that when she dies, they'll remain. And it caught me off guard, because I had all these ideas as far as where that storyline was going with Campion and Vril, and then it just all of a sudden it ended. And yet I'm like, okay, is there any way they could put the character in another body, or is there still plans for Vril or not? And how does this further Campion's story? I'm not sure, but I thought it was an interesting little storyline and arc. And yet again, like I said, it caught me off guard how they ended it. Any thoughts on the importance of Vril to Campion's story and where it could go in future seasons?
Well, there is a lot of talk about this, and I can't necessarily say that that I had this thought myself, but just conversating with people and talking on the internet and everything. She writes down, like you said, Vreel's diary, Vreel's memories, and everything. And part of that is of Decima's work. And what she mentioned Decima did was that Decima made weapons that destroyed the Earth's atmosphere, that she helped, destroy their planet. And if writings about that, if she wrote about that in enough detail, then that could add another element to the show, because now those weapons are in play, if anyone understands Vreel's writing.
I think, yeah, because if that may be what they feel is their only way to kill the number 7, is that perhaps destroying the atmosphere. So, destroying Earth, that may be what they feel is the way out of this, is by destroying this planet and destroying the cycle. Because when I think of this in cyclic form, where it's going into these cycles, there's a lot of, like, even the Mithraeus kind of things, that is a Iranian sun god from way back in the day, when the Roman Empire was spreading and stuff. It was, if I remember correctly, it was like the god of war. What is it? Sun, justice, and war. And pre like before Iran was Iran, it was like the Persian Empire and the second and third like centuries time frame. But it's when you, I think, put it in a cycle like that, this entire thing is kind of feeling like it's talking about Earth itself. How, when you look at like they call them the Iraqi batteries, those batteries that they found forever ago that were like, was it 5,000 or 6,000 years old, that basically they had power. Way back in prehistoric times. They just found recently it was a city that was built prior to what they felt like cities were even, it outdated their previous thought of humanity. Like, where, we equate humanity to building cities and becoming, group oriented and stuff like that. And it dated back like 10,000 years or something. And the one previously found to that was, I think, like 3,000 years or whatever. I think that this whole show is kind of talking about cycles, but it's also kind of alluding to, the lost city of Atlantis kind of thing, where they talk about how technology was there back in the day and that basically was their undoing. And these societies have crumbled as technology had advanced, and then basically starts over. They talk about the Dark Ages being a time where everything kind of went away, and then everything started to come back after that. You talk about, the Renaissance and everything else. I think that this show is kind of alluding to that being what's happening on their planet, but also taking aspects of what happened in real life on Earth, and talking about how it goes in cycles as well.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing where it could be so cyclical that, the serpents multiply. There's more than one serpent now. They can't really stop the thing. Whatever transmission or AI or thing is directing them, they're like, okay, well, we can't beat that. It's going to keep messing with our minds and everything. We can destroy the serpents, though, and we can get out of here. They build the bombs that destroy the atmosphere and everything. They use that. They flee to Earth. Generations pass. The serpent starts sending transmissions to Earth. People start seeing that as a religious message. They start building technology. The atheist against the Mithraic again. They destroy the atmosphere there, and they flee to Kepler, and and it just keeps going. That could be how it ends, honestly.
Yeah, that Earth is part of the cycle
Mm-hmm.
that humanity has to, rebuild there, and possibly, absolutely. I keep wondering if another ship's going to appear or something like that. I don't know if I would be annoyed by that or not, because that's what they did last season. But you would
Well,
have
yeah.
to assume that there's more people out there, maybe.
Well, I think I heard someone say that they mentioned in season 1 that there were 3 Mithraeus ships.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that there are more. And we know that Mother has the ability to destroy them
Yeah,
pretty easily.
we definitely know that.
But you also gets to a point where you start eliminating characters, and now you're like, okay, well, we need more characters. They killed a lot of characters this season so far, and they may not be done with that. Going into that, another piece of the equation is these Mer people, and the one that kidnapped Tempest's child, which we're still not completely clear on the whole reasoning or how that works, but essentially they find it. It's nursing the child, which is the confusing thing is I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do these things reproduce? They can't just take other children and turn them, because there's not any humans on the planet. So that's a little puzzling. But okay, let's say it's trying to raise this child. How and what is the child going to be? I don't know. But it ends up in a conflict because Tempest comes to the decision that she's like, you know what, fuck it, I don't want it. I've changed my mind. Let's go. And Father's like, okay. And then Hunter, who has been freaking out the whole episode, basically calling everybody out in one way or another. He told Father, "You've been slipping lately. Campion is into this fucking psycho, android. That's your fault." He's basically saying, "What the hell happened to you?" Anyways, he takes matters into his own hands. He decides to kill this Mer person, takes the child. Tempest is pissed. She walks away. Hunter has the child. I'm assuming he'll help raise it or whatever. And, obviously Mother and Father would as well. Clearly that baby is going to be important going, into future seasons if it gets picked up. But I go back to the Mer people. Like, what the hell are they and their purpose and how does it work? I don't know. But any thoughts? There's a lot there, but any thoughts on the Mer people, Hunter's relationship with his child now, Tempest's, just how all that's going to play out?
He murdered it.
Hey. But
I was going to cut you off like 4 times and say that, but it was because as soon as you said Mer people and stuff, like it just kept coming into my head, and I'd make myself laugh, so I just thought I'd share. But they mentioned that the giant one is the mother, so similar to wasps or ants or anything else. You have the mother. It becomes this giant version of the colony itself, because there were several males that came up and they were just like, well, we think these are the males, these are small. And then all of a sudden the one that came up and stole the baby, they said was the mother, was feeding the baby. It's this giant being, this giant, I don't want to say creature, but it's a creature. That thing's fucking terrifying. But I think that I still am curious that where they all seem to come from. Even the things that were jumping around and chasing them in the woods, the quasi
in the
people,
planet,
they were coming out of those giant holes in the ground.
Yeah.
Where the small hole was, where they were coming out of, seemed like the size of the most current number 7, like the most current worm snake thing. But those giant ones on the upper part of Earth where they basically came through, I think were caused by maybe the bigger snakes or the previous versions of this snake that came through. And those people made it to land. The Mer people, those were the people that were on land that started to evolve. And I think now in the tropic zone where they're at now is kind of the primordial goo kind of thing, where it basically starts. And I think that these Mer people are the first people, the first version, the most devolved version of the people. And this mother was trying to get that baby to help her people evolve into the next version of people that we saw coming up.
Yeah, or worse yet, it perhaps had memories of being human. Like if it was devolved, and of being human and having human children, and just out of something in the back of its mind, made it think, oh, this is normal. This is what my children are supposed to look like. Because if it's a devolved human, and if it's not like the umpteenth generation of mer person. But I agree with Spencer that I think the land dwelling ones and the mer people, that they're both different variants of the devolved human. But and we're talking about this character so much that there may not even be a section that we talk about it. But I think again, this raises concerns with grandmother, in my opinion, because she said that she was built to, because again, like I said, everything she says is vague enough that you could take it one way or another. She said, why the serpent wants to destroy the earth is beyond human understanding. She's not human. She said her goal is to, assure that, is to ensure the existence of atheist life on this planet. She may see like, well, in this state, you have no gods. You're not smart enough to come up with that concept. She may be responsible for devolving them to some degree, or at least keeping them in that state.
Yeah, I mean, grandmother is obviously going to be, I think, in the next episode, there's going to be a moment where she does or says something that's going to be the catalyst, I think, that launches us into the next season. What that is, I don't know, but definitely an important character. Because of her connection with Mother in terms of sort of being the older model, and B, just the fact that she's been in this cycle before. she's been around a long time. She knows shit she's not saying. I would assume, or she's saying what she needs to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the Mercs thing, the thing that was odd to me. Okay, so it has the chest cavity that opens up that can protect other life that's not designed to be an acid ocean. It was nursing, so it has the ability to even feed this child. It was just weird because I was like, well, does it reproduce can it just take an animal like a fucking squirrel and put it inside of it and like raise, you know what I mean? Like I was just trying to think how it works. I don't know, but it was big as hell.
It was going to raise it and create a mer-human person, a hybrid.
That's what I don't know, and I'm curious to how what is it feeding the child, and I could get back into my acid ocean complaints again and say there's too much acid water all over the fucking place.
Right. I'm starting to wish that I listened to that podcast because I did find out that it is Cast and Crew that does the podcast, and maybe they explain some of this. I hope there's a whole episode about acid ocean because there needs to be.
After this finale, I'll probably go back and listen to a lot of that stuff. That definitely.
The podcast, those I think are only like 10 to 12 minutes a piece from what I saw, because it's on the bottom of the HBO app. You can listen to the podcast, and it's also got like a behind the scenes thing that's like 4 or 5 minutes. So there's lots of stuff.
There's one left. We're entering the season finale. Like as I said, they have not greenlit the third season. I double and triple checked.
I just looked when we were talking about it, and as of 4 days ago, they have not.
So I don't see any way that they can in this season that's what's the word?
That's going to wrap up things.
Yeah, that feels tidy enough to where I'm like, well, if there's not another season, oh well. I don't see it. But let's hope that season gets greenlit and they announce it in the next few days. And very excited to see where this goes. Anything else y'all want to talk about regarding this episode?
Well, a couple of things. Like how messed up was it? When they got the transmission through the walkie-talkie, and it's Sue's voice, just repeating "burn me."
She's like, "Kill me,
burn me, burn me." Yeah, that was so messed up. This is what I mean when I see the show's been getting very Lovecraftian. She painfully turns into this tree, that they receive transmissions from, and it's just, you know, telling them to kill her, to burn her, you know.
Dude, it reminded me of the end, the end of the first Fly movie
Yeah,
when he,
yeah.
you know, grabs the shotgun and just puts it against his own head, and he's begging, you know, pleading with her to pull the trigger.
It's the same feeling, absolutely.
You know, he's become this thing, and it's just like, fuck it.
Well, my big question with that too, because I was going to bring up part of that too, is because we said what they were feeding on looks like brains, but does that mean that they're trying to make these other people seeds to make them trees?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was the interesting thing, is because they leave it, they consume the fruit, nothing happened. They fed it to the people, nothing happened, and they were, you know, Marcus was confused. He's like, well, fuck, well, what does it do? And then of course we see, okay, well, if the snake consumes, you know, starts consuming it, and then, you know, the whole damn tree, it will evolve. So it is a question: is there something that's going to happen to everyone that consumed the fruit in the next episode?
But that was my question. The reason does she want to be burned? One, she's still alive, but as the tree, because even when Marcus walked up to her and touched her, you could see it looked like blood, like not blood as in like bloody blood, but like it was pulsating, like a pulse.
Mm-hmm.
And then even the fruit itself looked like human tissue. It looked like brain, and what you see when someone gets their guts blown out with a shotgun. Like it looked visceral. So were they consuming her and she could still feel it? Like that, it raised so many questions like that in my head when I watched them eating it, and then her saying that. I'm like, fuck, does she feel them eating her? Like physically feel it? Now it was real trippy. Like you said, Lovecraftian, but it was that to me felt like this whole show is turned into like a horror sci-fi, more, you know, Ridley
Oh,
Scott, Alien,
completely. The
but
last
it's so
three
good.
episodes, it's a horror series at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, everything's just so weird, and you know, and so horrifying. The things that the mer people, the tree, you know, what this serpent has changed into. Now it has all these tendrils and everything, and you know, and it shrieks, and when it shrieks, it explodes people. You know, it's gone to some crazy places. It is very, very much horror at this point.
Yeah, completely. Like, you know, I can't imagine how they're going to end it. Yeah. Anything else?
Did y'all watch the trailer?
No, on purpose.
I intentionally did not this time.
I did.
I did.
I watched that, and I watched the making of the episode. Like, but I still don't know where it's going to go. But I will say, of course, you know, spoilers, trailer talk. It's hard to say whether grandmother can be trusted still, and if she can, it seems like she might be a little more totalitarian than mother.
I could see that. Yeah.
You know, and she's even okay with like the people with faith. It seems so she's like, that's okay. You know, even atheists slip up sometimes. We can fix that. And the question is, like, what does she mean by that?
I wonder if mother will end up turning the trust back on. That'd be an interesting.
That's a good question. Yeah, she may be closer aligned with the trust than she is with grandmother.
Could she need an ally? And she's like, well, Campion designed the trust.
Well, and that was the thing that I've read, is that when they talk about the season 3, because they've already talked to the creators and showrunners and everything else, that they already have season 3 essentially lined out, and which is great news because it's not just episodic. It's like there is a non I don't want to say non lost kind of outline set. There's already a set outline for the show. So with the the outline set up, I feel like they're going to. I really feel like by the end of this, they have this entire outline. It's going to be great. But they said that Campion, the guy who played adult Campion, has already been talked to for season 3. So I feel like they've already said that he plays a bigger role. So I am curious as to what they're going to do.
Yeah, we brought him up quite a bit this season. I'm a little surprised we haven't gotten. Maybe we will next episode, another flashback episode. With a little, because we keep bringing up father. Like there's clearly something there, in terms of why he was chosen. But I don't know. Maybe next week. But yeah, Raised by Wolves. Gonna be sad when it's over. But yeah, appreciate everyone listening, and look forward to that season finale review.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay woke.